wood, and we can
Let's go to
trade.
the forest.
Let's go. He has the trade. Yes.
4, so we need 3 more. So we need 12, 10 more. We need 12 total emeralds. We have 9.
9. See a little more wood.
Come on.
Oh my god. We don't even have an axe. We need to make another one. It's weird.
Back When You Called Us Devils is a horror thriller series about a seemingly normal high school. Back When You Called Us Devils is a horror thriller series about a seemingly normal high school kid who has lost his memories and can only recall the past 6 months. As he interacts with people who insist were from his past, he begins to investigate his old self and tries to find out how he lost his memories. While here on our channel we usually like to cover horrific monsters or gory massacres, Back When You Called Us Devils is more of a psychological drama where the horror comes from the mysteries of the main character. So, is the series as traumatic as a lot of people make it out to be? Well, let's go ahead and find out. The series begins in an abandoned school with the eerie image of a bloody hand swinging a knife. We then cut to our main character, Yusuke, who is daydreaming as his friends tease him about wanting to touch some boobs. The lighthearted moment is interrupted when his girlfriend, Tamaki, drags him out of the classroom. Before they leave, one of his classmates jokingly asks if kissing her would help him get his memories back. It's revealed that Yusuke has amnesia and is missing 15 years of his entire life. Also, I did mention in a previous video that I did not like amnesia stories. I do want to clarify that I do like amnesia stories if the entire plot is based around the amnesia instead of the main character getting amnesia for just one arc and then at the end of the arc just gets their memories back. I think it's lazy and pretty stupid, but for a story like this to start off with amnesia, again, it is not bad. They joke about the fairy tale kiss, but Yusuke seriously asks if they could try it. Tamaki leans in and they makes out with him, but Yusuke suddenly passes out. Tamaki asks if that was really his first kiss, but then casually brushes it off. Later, Yusuke goes to work where he meets up with another one of his friends named Shu. After a rough day and getting beat up by their boss, Yusuke and Shu head to the locker room. There, Yusuke can't stop staring at Shu's severely burned back. He apologizes, saying that if he ever got used to seeing it, it would feel like Shu wasn't really his friend anymore. Shu explains how he got his burns. Back in middle school, he was bullied by a gang of classmates. The leader of the gang would beat him up and take his money. One day, the leader made Shu undergo a hot bath endurance test. If Shu can endure having boiled water poured on his back without screaming or reacting, he would be upgraded to a part of the gang. Shu held out surprisingly well, while the rest of the gang freaked out. The boss just kept on laughing. That boss looked eerily like Yusuke. Shu says that he thought he had run away from those devils, but then that same demon appeared before him again. That demon is Yusuke. Shu then punches Yusuke in the face and just starts stomping on him. He lets out all of his pent-up rage, but Yusuke, despite the beating, asks him if they're still friends. Enraged, Shu hits him even harder, shouting that Yusuke burned him, brutalized Miyata, Ichinose, and worst of all, he's a murderer. Shu grabs Yusuke by the face and says that even if he's forgotten everything, they will never forget. They're going to keep taking revenge on him, and he knocks him out. Yusuke wakes up in a hospital and his mother comes to pick him up. We learn that in the spring of last year, Yusuke entered high school, but shortly afterward, he vanished. Half a year later, he was found on a boat 6 miles away from home, just peacefully sleeping, with no external injuries. At home, Yusuke checks his middle school yearbook to confirm if Shu was telling the truth, and shockingly, he was. His mother tells him that he was an ideal student who never did anything to make others resent him, but Yusuke now knows that that image was just a facade. Now he wonders what he'll do about the others coming after him. The next day at school, he walks with Tamaki and notices a new student leaning against a pole. That student walks up to him and says, "It's nice to see you again." He reaches out for a handshake, but there's a gaping hole in the middle of his palm. He claims that Yusuke was the one who made that hole. His name is Aizawa, and Yusuke recognizes him from the yearbook. Yusuke tells him that he doesn't remember anything and asks him to cut him some slack. Aizawa says that Shu was right, and that he's going to force Yusuke to remember. After school, while talking with Tamaki, two girls from Yusuke's middle school appear, Asami and Yuma, who both used to be his girlfriends. They make Tamaki jealous and she runs off. Asami and Yuma try to initiate a threesome with Yusuke, but he pushes them off. As he walks away, Asami forgot to tell him that he has a message from Aizawa, that when he gets home, he'll be waiting for him. Surely enough, when Yusuke arrives, Aizawa is sitting in the living room with his mom, who happily says that they were best friends. After she leaves, Aizawa tells Yusuke that amnesia isn't an excuse to run away from his past. He's going to make him remember everything. Aizawa reveals the origin of his wound. During middle school workshop class, he accidentally drilled a small hole in his palm. The friend sitting next to him, Yusuke, grabbed the drill and forced him to make the hole even bigger every single day. Eventually, it got so large that you could basically fit an entire eye through it. Wanting to learn more about what kind of person he used to be, Yusuke listens as Aizawa flips open their old yearbook and recounts what he did. Yusuke coerced Asami and Yuma into losing their virginity to most of the boys in class. When they started complaining, he threatened to leak their sex tapes online. Eventually, they fully embraced the roles that he forced on them and even recruited other girls to participate in similar acts. However, one girl, Akari, resisted. So, Yusuke and a bunch of other guys raped her, and she became pregnant and he forced her to get an abortion. Eventually, she attempted suicide and dropped out of school. Yusuke stops Aizawa and says he knows this isn't about revenge. He realizes that Aizawa wants to bring back the old Yusuke, so he knows that he can't let anyone else get to him. Aizawa says that Yusuke is right, and says that they should make a pact together, not to let anyone harm him or those that he cares about. The next day, Yusuke breaks up with Tamaki to protect her. Meanwhile, Aizawa pushes Yusuke to recover his memories, telling him the others won't come for him after a while, but they still need to find out their weaknesses. He explains that Yusuke used to keep blackmail material on his victims. Yusuke only recalls one scene, stabbing someone in an abandoned classroom. Aizawa suggests that they revisit the scene to jog his memory. They ride a limo to the old school that they once called their home base. Along the way, they discuss the possibility of Yusuke being a killer. Back in middle school, neither of them would have actually killed anyone. That would have just ended the game and ruined their fun. So if Yusuke did kill somebody, it had to have happened between his disappearance and when he was found. They arrive at the school. Aizawa gives Yusuke a tour, pointing out rooms where they used to torture and rear other students. Eventually, they reach the classroom from Yusuke's memory. There, they see a black cat roaming around and a massive blood stain on the floor. Aizawa asks who Yusuke was with during the incident and what kind of game they were playing. When Yusuke doesn't answer, Aizawa grabs his head and slams it into the floor, warning him that if he makes a mistake like that, Aizawa will be punished too. He lets him go and Yusuke tries to leave and turn himself in, but Aizawa threatens to crush him before anyone else can if he gives up now. Aizawa then comes up with a new idea to help Yusuke regain his memories. As they leave the classroom, they stumble upon a couple about to hook up in another room. Aizawa tases the man and then kidnaps the woman to recreate one of Yusuke's fun memories. Yusuke refuses to participate, but the woman begins to scream for help. Aizawa threatens her, saying that if she makes another sound, he'll kill her with an ice pick. But he doesn't actually have one. It's all a lie to just manipulate her. Watching this unfold, Yusuke starts to understand why his classmates once called him a devil. He removes her blindfold, but Aizawa warns that if Yusuke doesn't rape her, he'll target Tamaki instead. He gives Yusuke 1 minute, or else Tamaki will be raped during a livestream. Yusuke reluctantly removes the girl's restraints and tells her to lie down on a desk. Just as he's about to do it, he looks at her and sees someone else's face. The volume ends with Yusuke panicking as he suddenly remembers that he did kill somebody that day. We see someone interview multiple citizens, looking for somebody. The citizens tell a story about a young boy and girl who live on the island for half a year with a black cat. The couple were known for always holding hands, and they seemed happy on the outside, but it seemed like something was off on the inside. On a summer festival, everyone was having fun and the couple were just holding hands, watching everyone from afar. It was like they saw something that they knew they'd never get their hands on. And from that day, they never saw the couple again. But the citizens hope that they're still holding hands to this day. Now, I am super intrigued right now. I am so far really liking this story. The only thing that I don't like right now is this interlude that I just read. I think the interlude is giving away way too much of the story. It's pretty obvious that the couple that they're talking about is Yusuke and some other girl that he could possibly have killed in the old school. Obviously, we don't know how it happened or who this girl is, but I do think knowing what happened to him in between vanishing and being found should be a bit more secretive until around maybe the ending of the series. If they start introducing stuff from the interlude into the main story, then I believe that the story might be going too much of a fast pace. The person Yusuke killed is revealed to be Ichi before he can finish. Aizawa cuts him off, knowing that the woman is still watching them. Aizawa takes several pictures of her and then threatens that if she says anything, he'll release the photos online. They leave the old school, now bathed in daylight. Yusuke realizes that he killed Akari Ichinose. However, he still can't remember anything about her except that they were secretly dating. While talking with Aizawa, they decide to visit Ichinose's house to speak with Akari's grandmother. Yusuke gives her a stuffed animal that Akari had once given him the last time that they hung out. After Aizawa leaves the room, Yusuke then asks the grandmother what Akari was like outside of school. She tells him Akari was always smiling, even though she knew things weren't going well at school. Yusuke asks if she's referring to the group of thugs that attacked and got her pregnant. The grandmother recalls visiting Akari at the clinic. Akari begged her not to call the police. All she wanted was to rest and return to school. Then a year ago, she disappeared, leaving a note that said not to look for her. The police did investigate, but nothing came of it. To this day, her grandmother believes Akari is still alive and will come back home. After she leaves the house, Yusuke and Aizawa break back in through an unlocked window. They enter Akari's room. Aizawa comments on how minimum the room is, and suddenly, Yusuke begins to remember conversations that he had with Akari in that very room, talking about everyday things. We cut to a flashback. Akari reveals that she's always had feelings for Yusuke, but now, she absolutely hates him. Back in the present, Aizawa finds a toy knife on Akari's room. Yusuke explains that she used to stab the walls in her pillows while thinking about them. Another flashback begins. Yusuke visits Akari and she attacks him with that same toy knife, but it turns out that she had been waiting for him just to show that his favorite toy was still intact. They played a game of chicken, where they talk every day and wait to see who would strike first. Yusuke always thought that one day she'd come at him with a real knife instead of the toy one. He loved the thrill of their twisted game, and eventually, he fell in love with her. After hearing that, Akari just laughed and then began talking to her cat Yusuke. In the present, Yusuke returns to the old school, believing that Akari or someone connected to her might still be there. They head to the school and find Yusuke the cat wearing a Lucky Charm as a necklace. We flash back again to Yusuke giving Akari the Lucky Charm as a gift. He told her that she looked like she had been studying hard, but in truth, she was studying how to destroy him. She stood up, and just when he thought she was going to stab him, she instead kissed him and pinned him to the ground. She told him not to get the wrong idea. She was waiting for the right moment to shatter his black heart. But if he did end up killing her, she asked him to at least bury her beneath a garden of flowers. In the present, Yusuke and Aizawa go to a flower garden near the school and begin digging. Eventually, they uncover a corpse's decaying hands. Yusuke throws up and suddenly remembers everything. Yusuke had pimped out Akari in the nurse's office to a group of middle school boys. After they were finished with her, Akari climbed on top of Yusuke. He pushed her off and called her a freak. Akari told him that after she cleaned herself up, she would still think of him every night before she goes to sleep. In the present, Yusuke continues digging up what he believes to be Akari's grave, but the body turns out to belong to someone else. Though they don't know who the man is, he was clutching the bag of evidence that they had been searching for. Aizawa theorizes that Yusuke must have killed this man to retrieve the evidence, not Akari. Aizawa says that since he got the evidence that Yusuke had against him, their agreement is now over. But Yusuke pushes back, saying that he'll go to the police and tell them everything that he has seen and heard unless Aizawa continues to protect them. Aizawa agrees to keep the pact going, but asks Yusuke if he intends to return to his peaceful life or continue digging into his devilish past. We cut to 2 months later. Yusuke is still trying to live a peaceful life but vows to keep searching for Akari. He he still has the cat and hopes to use it to find her. However, he hasn't found any new clues or recovered any new memories. Then one day, he receives a message. Shu wants to meet and talk with him. The meeting is awkward at first, until Shu asks if Yusuke had lost his virginity yet. Shu reveals that he has spoken to Aizawa, who told him to stop bullying Yusuke. Yusuke then tells Shu that he remembered what he did to Akari and asks who Shu thinks he actually killed. Shu admits that the buried man died committing suicide because of Yusuke. Yusuke begins to feel guilty for only focusing on Akari instead of his other victims, but Shu starts lashing out, saying that Yusuke is no longer that same person that he once was. Shu pleads with him to never regain his memories, because if he does, he'll just return to being that same devil. Shu then tells him that there's no way to atone for what he has done, and then he walks out. Days pass. Yusuke starts to feel like he's being followed, narrowly avoiding falling objects and even being pushed into oncoming traffic. One day, his mom leaves for work. Yusuke tells her that he'll cook her a special curry meal when she gets back. All day she's been super excited, finally happy to have a bonding moment with her son after everything. Later, we see Yusuke cooking up curry, but then we flash to a panel showing a pair of broken glasses lying on the street. Yusuke rushes to the hospital and finds his mother beaten and unconscious, laying in a coma. Her coworker tells him that she was attacked by a random person on the street, but Yusuke knows better. He knows that it's all his fault. Furious, he confronts Aizawa and demands to know why his mom got hurt if Aizawa was supposed to protect the people that he cared about. Aizawa replies that the wall he was holding up has a hole in it now, and that hole is just getting bigger and bigger. Yusuke is then shaken to the core. Aizawa tells him that it's time to go back to being that devil, to remind everyone why they should never try to cross him. The volume ends with Yusuke returning home, sitting at the kitchen table, sobbing, finally realizing that it's time to go back to being that devil. But before we get to the next part, I just want to say that we now have a Discord server. Later, we see Yusuke cooking up curry, but then we flash to a panel showing a pair of broken glasses lying on the street. Yusuke rushes to the hospital and finds his mother beaten and unconscious, laying in a coma. Her coworker tells him that she was attacked by a random person on the street, but Yusuke knows better. He knows that it's all his fault. Furious, he confronts Aizawa and demands to know why his mom got hurt if Aizawa was supposed to protect the people that he cared about. Aizawa replies that the wall he was holding up has a hole in it now, and that hole is just getting bigger and bigger. Yusuke is then shaken to the core. Aizawa tells him that it's time to go back to being that devil, to remind everyone why they should never try the access. Well, we cut to a group of men waiting for Aizawa outside a warehouse. Inside, a man and a woman, both in their underwear, are tied up. These two are responsible for attacking Yusuke's mother. The man shows no remorse for what he did, and he isn't afraid of Yusuke anymore, especially now that the rumors say that he's lost his memories. Suddenly, Aizawa and Yusuke walk into the warehouse. They find out that the rumors are true. Yusuke has lost his memories, which makes the man even more arrogant. But without warning, Yusuke grabs a hammer and smashes the man's toes. He continues to crush them, laughing and mocking him. Whether or not he has his memories, Yusuke declares that a devil's always gonna be a devil. Yusuke demands to know what he did to the man. One of the thugs explains that the man's name is Mitamori, and the woman is his sister, whom Yusuke had previously raped and forced Mitamura to masturbate while watching. Yusuke continues mocking that the man's name is Mitamori, and the woman is his sister, whom Yusuke had previously raped and forced Mitamura to masturbate while watching. Yusuke continues mocking Mitamura, and then turns his attention to his sister. He jumps on top of her as both siblings begin to sob and beg for mercy. Mitamura pleads with Yusuke to stop, but Yusuke just laughs and starts removing Mitamura's clothes. The next day, Yusuke and Aizawa are visiting his mother, who is now recovering from her injuries. Outside the hospital, they go and talk about the events of the previous night. It's revealed that Yusuke was merely pretending to be his old self, while Aizawa faked a police alert to stop things before Yusuke went too far. But despite the performance, it's revealed that Yusuke was merely pretending to be his old self, while Aizawa faked a police alert to stop things before Yusuke went too far. But despite the performance, Yusuke didn't Yusuke didn't recover any memories. He just felt disgusted. As Yusuke leaves, Aizawa talks to himself, saying that it's official. He's finally lost faith in Yusuke. When Yusuke gets back home, he notices the lights are on and the door is unlocked. He braces himself to return to that devil mode, but when he walks in, he finds Tamaki cooking dinner for him. She entered the house the same way that she always did when they were dating. She tells him that she came because she had a talk with Aizawa, who told her everything. Aizawa told Tamaki the real reason that he broke up with her, about Akari, the brother and sister, and all the things that Yusuke did before he lost his memories. He also left Yusuke a message: "Go call the police." Aizawa knows that Yusuke won't. And even if he did, Aizawa has all of this told her everything. Aizawa told Tamaki the real reason that he broke up with her, about Akari, the brother and sister, and all the things that Yusuke did before he lost his memories. He also left Yusuke a message: "Go call the police." Aizawa knows that Yusuke won't. And even if he did, Aizawa has all of the evidence in his hands. Tamaki asks if Aizawa is lying, but Yusuke admits that it's all true and tells her to stay away from him. Suddenly, Tamaki hugs him and tells him not to carry this burden alone and that she'll always be on his side. Yusuke pushes her to the floor, demanding that she stay away, shouting that he's the devil. Tamaki then takes off her clothes and says that if he's really the devil, then he would violate her. Yusuke approaches her, but ultimately, he can't do it. He breaks down crying, asking why she would even stay with him. Tamaki simply says, because she loves him, and the two kiss. The next morning, Yusuke wakes up beside Tamaki for a brief crying, asking why she would even stay with him. Tamaki simply says, because she loves him, and the two kiss. The next morning, Yusuke wakes up beside Tamaki. For a brief moment, he feels at peace, but when he looks over at her again, Akari appears. Yusuke looks around and realizes that he's not in his room. It was just a dream. He describes the dream to Tamaki, which perfectly matches the interlude that took place after Volume 1. He used to live in that town with Akari. Tamaki decides to search for the town that Yusuke described, hoping that it would help him bring back his memories, and maybe even lead him to Akari. A short time later, she tells Yusuke that she had found the same bar from his dreams, as well as his old apartment. Yusuke wants to apologize to Akari, but he doubts that he will ever get the chance. They head out to town, but Yusuke is nervous about what he might remember, or if returning there would awaken the devil within him again. He's scared, but Tamaki calms him down, which reminds him of Akari. They arrive to the town, but Yusuke still can't remember anything. Still, they continue exploring and enjoying their time together like a date. They reminisce about the first time that they met. On Yusuke's first day back at school, when the first person he saw was Tamaki. He looked directly at her and told her that he loved her, then immediately took it back. On his second try, he asked her to be his girlfriend. She said yes, not because she truly liked him, but because she knew that he was trying to fill the hole left by his missing memories. Eventually, they reach Yusuke's old apartment, where they meet a man named Kenji, who immediately recognizes Yusuke and calls him Yusaku. He also calls Tamaki Chisato, the fake names Yusuke and Akari used while living there. Yusuke explains to both Kenji and the landlady that he has amnesia. The landlady then hands him a letter from Akari, which she gave her 2 months ago, just in case Yusuke ever came back, which means that Akari is still alive somewhere. Yusuke should feel happy about this, but instead, he has a terrible gut-wrenching feeling. As they enter the apartment, Yusuke collapses in the doorway, When he wakes up, he remembers everything, every single crime that he committed. It's Yusuke's middle school graduation. Yusuke visits Akari at her home and tells her that he's moving away, meaning their twisted game of survival is over. He says that he plans to hit a reset button in high school and live a peaceful life. He then turns to Akari and mocks her, saying that those are all the things that she's never going to have. Akari simply tells him goodbye. Yusuke is stunned, but he walks away. He remembers everything, every single crime that he committed. It's Yusuke's middle school graduation. Yusuke visits Akari at her home and tells her that he's moving away, meaning their twisted game of survival is over. He says that he plans to hit a reset button in high school and live a peaceful life. He then turns to Akari and mocks her, saying that those are all the things that she's never going to have. Akari simply tells him goodbye. Yusuke is stunned, but he walks away. 1 week into high school, Yusuke's new life turns out to be miserable. No one in his class cares about his antics or cruel jokes. Sports are too competitive to be fun, but what still excites him is the sight of blood. One day after baseball practice, he spots Akari on the street. She says just one thing: "Help me." Yusuke understands her instantly. He walks up to her and they leave together. Akari explains that Yusuke put a curse on her. Everywhere she walks, she hears people whispering about her and the horrific things that Yusuke did to her, calling her a dirty girl. The volume ends with Akari begging Yusuke to take that curse off her and go away somewhere together. And from that moment on, Yusuke and Akari disappeared for 6 months. Yusuke and Akari put on disguises and head to the small town where Akari used to live when she was younger. Tamaki, upon hearing the story, assumes it's a happy one, but Yusuke reminds her that Akari was a victim in this entire situation. Not only that, but Yusuke reveals that he killed another devil. Tamaki is confused, so Yusuke clarifies. It was the man that he buried at the old school. He says that if it weren't for that man, maybe he and Akari could have continued pretending to be happy lovers. The flashback continues. Yusuke works as a fisherman alongside Ken. While Akari works at a restaurant and also babysits the boss's daughter. They've been living there for 5 months now. Yusuke admits that he is in love with Akari even after everything that he did to her. But Akari responds by saying that she will always hate him and could kill him at any second. They both start bursting into laughter. However, watching from a distance is a strange man. That man suddenly appears behind Yusuke and he smashes a rock against his head. As he continues attacking Yusuke, he greets Akari, welcoming her back to the island and commenting how she's all grown up now, just like her late mother. Akari demands to know why he's there and says that he should be in prison for killing her parents. The man claims that it was just an accident, but admits that while they were burning, he was grinning the entire time. He says that it was because her mother didn't love him back. He pins Akari to the ground and begins to undress her. Yusuke tries to stop him, but the man just knocks him aside. The stalker threatens to kill Yusuke unless Akari lets him have his fun. Just when it seems the worst is about to happen, a woman appears, calling out about their cat getting loose. The stalker is startled and flees, but not before he punches Akari in the face. Yusuke blames himself for what happened. If it weren't for him, Akari never would have been attacked. That night when they get home, Akari tries to cut herself, but Yusuke stops her. Akari doesn't understand why he stopped her. Everything that happened was all his fault. Yusuke tells her that he needs her as bait to catch the stalker. He has to pay him back for what he did to him. The stalker begins coming to their house every day, knocking on the door but never saying a word. It got so bad that they could barely sleep for an entire month. Then, the unthinkable happened. The stalker moved into the apartment next door. Yusuke decides that it's finally time to hunt him down, but Akari talks him out of it and then convinces him that they should leave the apartment next door. Yusuke decides that it's finally time to hunt him down, but Akari talks him out of it and then convinces him that they should leave and just pretend to go on vacation. So they headed out to the old school and decided to make it their new home, but the stalkers still followed them. Yusuke grabs Akari and they run inside the school. He lays out a plan. Akari will lure the stalker while Yusuke hides in the nursery with a knife, ready to kill him. Before she goes, Akari kisses him and runs off. She lures the stalker into a classroom. He asks where Yusuke is, but Akari lies and says that she killed him. Their game is officially over. The stalker moves in to assault her, but Akari suddenly stabs him in the heart. The stalker then throws Akari around, beating her viciously. Just as he's about to violate her, Yusuke rushes in from behind and stabs him in the back. Yusuke pins the man to the ground. Akari begs him not to become a killer, but Yusuke doesn't listen. He continues stabbing the stalker over and over again until he is lying dead. Then, Yusuke begins to laugh hysterically. Back in the present, Yusuke remembers everything. He recalls how he buried the stalker with all of the evidence that he had on Yusuke's past victims. By doing that, he undid the curse that he had placed on Akari. She can finally live as a normal girl. Yusuke and Akari go on a final date, a final goodbye, now that she no longer has to keep on running. Yusuke asks Akari to tie him up naked on a boat so he can use it as an excuse for how his mom finds him. As they walk and begin to joke around, Yusuke begins to hallucinate. He hears someone calling Akari a dirty girl. He looks again and Akari now appears as a mirror image of himself, telling him that his existence is a curse on his own. This fake Yusuke berates him, telling him that he has to carry the weight of his crimes forever. The next thing that Yusuke remembers is waking up on the boat, naked, bound with tape, having completely erased his past memories. He couldn't handle the pressure. so his mind sealed everything away. Back in the present, Yusuke opens up the letter Akari had left for him. While Tamaki waits outside, the landlady arrives and forces her way into the apartment, but Yusuke is already gone, leaving through the open window. Yusuke took a train back home. Inside the letter, Akari had left a phone number. Yusuke calls it and Akari answers. She immediately asks if he regained his memories. Yusuke says that he died. The landlady arrives and forces her way into the apartment, but Yusuke is already gone, leaving through the open window. Yusuke took a train back home. Inside the letter, Akari had left a phone number. Yusuke calls it and Akari answers. She immediately asks if he regained his memories. Yusuke says that he did, and he regrets forgetting, especially everything about them. Akari begins to laugh, saying that he sounds just like the devil from when they used to pretend to be lovers. Yusuke says that he wants to see her again. Akari says that she feels the same way too. So, they make plans to meet to finally bring their story to an end. Back at the apartment, Tamaki sits quietly, listening to the ocean waves. Then Aizawa calls her, asking if Yusuke remembers anything. She tells him that he remembered everything and then left her behind. Aizawa says that it just makes sense. Tamaki was never a part of Yusuke's past. She was only just a placeholder for Akari. Tamaki then leaves the apartment and comes face to face with the landlady. The landlady tells her that the only reason that she took in Yusuke and Akari was because if she didn't, they would have surely died. It's also why Kenji gave them jobs, to save them from themselves. Tamaki says that she is going to find Yusuke, not out of love, but because of her ego. She can't let things end like this, and vows to also be there to see the ending of their story. She begins tracking his location on her phone, and Kenji agrees to help her search using his boat. The volume ends with Yusuke stepping out of the train station. As he begins walking through the town, he finally finds Akari sitting quietly on a bench. And that was the first part of Back When You Called Us Devils. I really didn't have much thoughts in between the volumes because I was just so locked in. However, I do have a lot to say about this series. First of all, it is pretty insane to imagine that these are all children. It's not a complaint, except it does make it even more disturbing when you see scenes of literal rape and torture everywhere. But for some reason, this series has, again, a lot of scenes that talk about rape, but still doesn't. And that tracking his location on her phone, and Kenji agrees to help her search using his boat. The volume ends with Yusuke stepping out of the train station. As he begins walking through the town, he finally finds Akari sitting quietly on a bench. And that was the first part of Back When You Called Us Devils. I really didn't have much thoughts in between the volumes because I was just so locked in. However,